All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
You've reached the internet's home for all things masonry. Join On the Level podcast as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft and try to unlock the mysteries, dispel the fallacies, and utilize the teachings of Freemasonry to unlock the greatness within each of us. I have you now. All right, welcome back to On the Level podcast.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Today, we have a very, very special guest. You've heard him once before. You heard him when he was you were installed master of your lodge, I think is when we had you on. Yes?
No, Grand Lodge.
Oh, that Grand Lodge. That's
Grand
right.
Lodge.
We were both masters of our lodges, I think, at the time. This is Timothy, Worshipful Timothy Ferdon. Welcome back, Timothy. Good to have you.
Well, thank you, Worshipful Timothy.
Good thing.
Right.
Really happy about that, which means you'll have all the titles soon, brother.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn that two-letter word the best I can. But the secret word of a master mason,
the
long lost word.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, yeah. Hey Tim,
What it turns into. Yeah.
So you have a new title, right? I mean, you're now.
Yeah.
What's your new title?
I am the personal rep for the executive officer for District 5 in DeMolay, which encompasses District 23 of Masonic district-wise. The districts are a little different.
So who do you report to?
Jody, the executive officer. Yep.
Jody
McGuire, the executive officer.
Jody McGuire.
That's Worshipful Jody McGuire, actually, if we're going to go there. Yeah, Worshipful.
Right. He was the master of Hillsboro Lodge.
Right.
Number 25.
What an awesome lodge, man. Wow.
It's a great lodge. I mean, that's what Freemason lodges should look like.
Yeah, I agree. If we could all get the faux finish done and make the whole place look like a temple like that everywhere, that would be awesome.
Do yourself a favor and go Google Hillsboro Lodge number 25. That's in Florida. And you will see a two-story lodge that has the dining, actually 3 stories. I think the dining hall's downstairs and the main floor is like a foyer kind of a deal. And upstairs they have the billiard hall and the actual lodge itself.
And
which
legitimate
also has
offices.
another layer. I think it's got a second story on the lodge level. There's like rafter seatings up there.
I can't get over the offices they have there. The Worshipful Master actually has an office. The secretary actually has an office. It's not just a closet in the back of the lodge that you hide away in.
My lodge it's the secretary's office. The master's office is where the secretary puts his crap. Like there's no way for the master to sit in there and do anything.
Right. I mean, not that, I don't know. I didn't really need one when I was, I had to sign stuff for the secretary, but it all goes back to the secretary. So it's like, I didn't really need anything like that.
My routine was I'd get there early. I'd go in the secretary's office. What do you need me to sign? Sign. And then I never step foot in there again for the rest of the night.
Yeah. In our lodge, it's where we keep a lot of things like before we started putting them in the display case, like ritual books and catechism the mentor's manuals and all that kind of stuff. So I would have to go in there for that. But with the exception of that, a couple of things I got to sign and that's it.
Well, I have to say you're the first person that has been a repeat guest on the podcast. We've never ever had somebody on a second time as a guest.
Really?
Yeah.
Why
man.
me?
Well, I mean, I'll answer that because there's a very good reason for it. You are one of the best examples I know of what a Mason should be.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate the compliment.
That's for me to say and you to take it.
Okay. Take it.
Just take it because I'm an observer. I'm somebody who grew up like the only male in the household and, we moved around all the time. So I really developed people watching skills. And it's one of the skills that served me well in Masonry because I could pretty quickly identify who was what. With some rare exceptions, I might have been wrong because I wanted something. I wanted somebody to be something maybe they weren't.
You saw something. You wanted to see something in them that just wasn't there.
Yeah, that I'm not going to say that didn't happen, but by and large, it served me really well. And you were somebody that I watched from afar for a while. We didn't really have a whole lot of dealings with each other until we got close to being masters together.
The very end of our senior warden year. And honestly though, but even then it was only, conversations a couple of times or whatever. It's not like we were calling each other or anything until pretty much right after we were installed, I guess.
Yeah. And then we had like a year where we led our district. Really, you and I led our district. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one wants to say that out loud, and I'm not saying it to be cocky. It's just what happened. We really rallied the other masters together, and even our members together. You convinced me to come to the esoteric nights that you were already doing in your
lodge. I convinced you to host it. Even.
I mean,
it wasn't very hard to convince you, though. It was like, hey, we're doing this thing.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, I wanted to do that. Well, why don't we both do it? And it was like, yeah, why not? And you guys had the better formula for the night. And I just had, people that were actually showing up to it. We just needed to come together so we could build it even more, I think is what the thing was. We just took ideas from each other and made it what it is. Actually, we just had one Saturday. It wasn't super well attended, but we probably had, 10 or 11 brothers there. We had a great conversation. It was awesome.
So, to most people, that would be awesome attendance to have 10 or 11 guys show up just to talk about Masonry on an off night, not at a lodge. That's
right.
We got spoiled last year because we had 28 guys coming. That's what we grew it to, man.
People, and I knew this one wasn't going to be the same as what we ended it at because it's the first one of the year. We got to get everybody back used to doing it. We already had the second one planned. I know a couple of people have conflicts, but it was the only day that worked in March for most of us, I guess. But no, man, it was really, really good. And we actually used your topic that you brought up, which was officers, lodge officers' duties, except for it didn't get a whole lot into that. It more delved into
I told you wouldn't
to be an officer or not to be an officer. You know what I mean? What the perks of getting in the officer line and getting involved that way versus not. And it was good. So those of you in District 23, March 30th, we're having the next esoteric discussion. I encourage you to come out.
At some point, I'll convince him to record these sessions and we'll put them online for other people to see. Probably heavily edited because there's drinking and I've seen all kinds of
we
stuff.
Wouldn't do that.
We had one where one of the younger guys who wasn't as experienced at having some cocktails was a little messy by the end of the night, and if that was on video, he would not approve.
No.
Yeah, so you got to be careful about that kind of stuff. But even that.
But at the same time, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna get a little out of hand, there was not a better environment for that to have happened. Nobody was gonna let that guy drive home, and nobody was gonna let him get himself in any kind of situation where he would have been a danger to himself or somebody else.
Nope.
He might have emotionally scarred one of my dogs for life, but other than that,
he did spend quite a bit of time on the floor with your dog. It actually wasn't on the floor; it was in the grass.
Yeah, it was in
your backyard.
Right.
Was healthy.
But it was fun.
They were just playing, but
Right. No, it was fun. I'm glad he had a good time.
He did. I drove him home that night, and we stopped to get. I had a Tesla. I have a Tesla, so I stopped to charge real quick because I wasn't going to make it home. And I turned around, and there he was about to pee. He was trying to hide it, so he was like, "But I'm like, bro, stop. Do not pee on the electrical machine. How about you go right over there?" He was like, "Oh, thank you so much." I'm like, "No, that's the last thing we need. Death by Tesla urination." That would have definitely made the news. So,
you got to fix for this, Elon? Oh, no.
But we have a great time, and if it ever got off course, we managed to get ourselves back on track. It was, I really missed those meetings. I'm going to make it back for more.
Dude, everybody was like, "What? Chris isn't coming?" I'm like, "No, he's not going to make it." Everybody was like, "Are you serious?" Yeah, no, not so much, man. I was leaning on you. I was looking forward to just having you run the damn thing.
Yeah, I'm tired of running
Psych.
things, man. I'm just here running a podcast now in my little studio. It's awesome.
Hell
But
yeah.
I wanted to have you back as the first repeat guest because, like I said, you tried to slip out of this one, but I'm not going to let you. You were, I observed you, and you were really a great Mason in my eyes. And that was before you became the master, and it looked like you were doing everything for the right reasons to me from the outside looking in. And then once we started working together, I got the clear picture that you are the real deal. You are an actual, like what a Mason's supposed to be. And you're really trying hard to help other people. And, we had crazy years because we were trying to help everybody that we could. I know you traveled to other districts
Yeah.
to do degrees that year, and I was traveling to other districts repeatedly for various things. We really tried to just show what leadership should look like. It's true servant leadership is what we tried to, I think, express in our year, and that you're stronger together.
Right.
That the more,
Well, my biggest thing was 90% of the job is showing up. If
yeah,
you could just show up and actually be involved, that's more than what most of the Masons do.
yeah,
If you say you're going to have an event, go to it. If there's an event in the district that you keep saying you want to go support, well, go do it.
I told the guys behind me, like, this isn't like any other chair you've had where you can just show up for the meeting and then go home. This is like going to be essentially a full-time job for you. You should be at all the degrees. You should be at all the Master Mason Association meetings. You should attend every installation you can get to. You should try to go to other degrees in your district if you can and bring as many guys as you can with you. This is a full-time job. This is not a joke to be the master of a lot. And I don't know how effective I was in drilling that into them, but one can hope that something got through. I created little docs to give it to them so they can distribute it around year after year of what to expect and how to prepare. Because everyone
You're a
tells you to
lot
prepare
more
for your
organized than
year.
me. Right.
Like, but how? No one ever told me how. They were just like, you got to get ready, you got to make your plans. And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? And then
The biggest thing I got was your installation. Plan for your put money aside for your installation. You got to, and that's like pretty much most of the advice I got from the past masters about installation.
Yeah. For those that aren't Masons or haven't been in the officer line, the master, at least in our district, the master, who's about to be installed, plans his own installation. It's like planning your own wedding, I guess, sort of.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out like the food, and you got to figure out the music, and is somebody going to sing the national anthem? Like you got to figure all this stuff out and coordinate with God knows how many people to get it done. There's probably got to be 20 guys easy that are involved in an installation, from the officers being installed to the past masters that are sitting in their chairs to the installing officer and the marshal. Like there's probably a good 20 guys easy.
Yeah, right, about 20.
It's no
about
joke.
20.
And
my biggest concern was the food.
Yeah. Well,
that was the biggest thing for me.
You don't want people to not, have a good time.
Right. And if you're gonna, expect people to show up to an event like that for a couple of hours, the least you can do is feed them, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah,
they're gonna sit through your boring installation. At least you can do
right.
It, feed them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and you make it as little as I guess as less boring as possible. But I mean, at the end of the day,
we were at each other's installations. You were at mine, and I was.
Yeah, we got pinned as Illuminati at yours.
Oh my God, that's right. I shared I shared photos from my installation, and there was a nice candid photo somebody took of me and Tim having just a private chat after the installation. Just, I don't know who took it, but it was a pretty good photo of us just chatting. And it couldn't have been like a month later. I saw an ad for the Illuminati, and it had used our photo as if we are the Illuminati. And I was like, I just thought that was hilarious. Everyone was so upset. They were like, you got to get him to shake it down, this and that. I'm like, this is great. What are you talking about?
Free
It proves how
advertising.
much
Why not?
BS this is. This whole Illuminati thing is a bunch of BS.
Uh-huh.
They don't even do
Man.
anything. They're just stealing pictures from the internet and making it look like they're doing stuff.
It's
I
man,
know.
how many messages do you get from the Illuminati? I can't tell
A
you how
lot.
many I've got from crazy wackadoos saying, join for the cause or whatever. It's crazy.
Seems to be all about getting rich. All of the messaging I get is like, get rich,
Yeah.
earn more
that'd
money
be great.
than God. I don't know. But, here you are, second time. And now you're the personal representative in Zone 5?
District 5 for DeMolay, yeah.
District 5 for DeMolay. And we've never on this show talked about any kind of appendant body or outside organization other than traditional Blue Lodge Masonry. I mean, we've mentioned Scottish Rite and York Rite and stuff, but we've never really...
And Motor Corps. I think last time I was on, we talked a little bit about Motor Corps, but, that was just a wormhole we got down somehow or another.
Yeah. Like a rabbit trail, maybe for 5 minutes, but this is the first time I thought, you're the guy now in our area for DeMolay.
Yes.
And so I thought it'd be great because I wasn't in DeMolay myself. I was not a leader in DeMolay. For about 10 minutes, I was the chapter advisor of a chapter, but I didn't get a whole lot of experience. So, I've done research and I thought it'd be great to have you on because a lot of people listen to the show that aren't Masons. And so I always try to keep that in mind. And even people that are Masons, a lot of new guys probably don't know about DeMolay. People that were raised within the first 12 months, they may not even know their lodge has a DeMolay chapter. So I thought it would be worthwhile to have a chat with you about DeMolay specifically.
It's a great subject, to be honest. I mean, I am a senior DeMolay. I was lucky enough to be one of them.
About your background in DeMolay?
So
maybe even like how it impacted your Masonic career.
I was 8 years old when I was introduced to DeMolay. My older brother started was a charter member of Lake Sumter chapter in Eustis, Florida. And back then I thought it was so cool with the gavel and the capes and all the candles going on and off. And I thought it was all cool. So I showed up to everything. I was at every fundraiser they had, every cleanup they had. I mean, anything I could be at, I was. I almost actually joined early when I was 11, a couple of months, because there was a conclave, and my birthday was in 2 months after conclave, and they almost just let me just go ahead and join it at conclave, but then it ended up happening.
So what is conclave?
Conclave is basically, it's a convention of that DeMolay puts on once a year. It's a week-long, 5-day-long event where the boys just have a good time. There's sports competitions, there's ritual competitions, there are delegate sessions where the young men vote on their own legislation for what what they want to do and who they want to run their who they want to be officers and things. And some of that's changed over the years too. Some of it, boys have a little less say, and the executive officer now appoints certain things just because of some things didn't work out, so they had to change around. But also, it's a pretty cool just to have 5 days in a hotel room with your buddies throughout the state. That was like the best memories I had in DeMolay was a conclave, because even when you weren't in the competitions and stuff, you're still spending a week just about at a nice hotel with a bunch of teenagers that you get along with, hopefully.
So who pays for that?
So the chapters pay for it. So they have to fundraise for it throughout the year, so that because it's not cheap either. It's close to $400 a kid, $350 a kid. Depends on how many kids are in a room.
Wow.
But it's pretty expensive. So if the chapter doesn't do a good job at fundraising, well then each member is out of pocket, or they have to look for a sponsorship or otherwise like that. Which I know Venice Lodge usually helps send a couple of guys every year to go to conclave, different events.
Yeah. I know that your lodge, Venice Lodge number 301, has, as long as I've been in Masonry, has always been like a pillar of the DeMolay community. You have a very popular chapter there.
Well, we're all in restructure right now. I love the Alan Pattison chapter. I love our namesake. It's great. He started Drew Warmington and Larry Bernard branched off of Sarasota chapter to come down and start a new chapter in Venice, and they chose the name C. Alan Pattison after the past master of Venice, that was the founding senior warden of Venice Lodge and the founding worshipful master of Inglewood Lodge. The idea of C. Alan Pattison chapter would be to be the encompassing areas that like Port Charlotte, Inglewood, Venice, and have the boys all come there, and then eventually break off from there and maybe start a chapter in Port Charlotte or Inglewood or or Punta Gorda or whatever. And it just hasn't got there yet. But we're in a restructure now. We've got probably got about 5 boys that are actively showing up all the time, and then we've got like 20 on the books. But so right now it's we're working to plan some more fun events to get the guys more active and hopefully eventually build the chapter back up where it needs to be.
So DeMolay is, I mean, big picture, it's basically a youth organization for boys that are aged 12 to 21.
12 to 21, yep.
And the only requirement they have, similar to Masonry, is that they believe in a higher power, correct?
Right. You have to believe in a higher power, or that there is. I have heard the argument of agnostic being perfectly fine. As long as you believe that there is something there, you don't necessarily have to know what it is. But there has to be something, guiding you to be a better.
Not an atheist, basically.
No, not an atheist. Agnostic, I would say, yeah, but atheist, no. Basically, you have to have something to hold you accountable for an obligation.
So, are women allowed to join, or girls allowed to join DeMolay?
No. Okay. So years ago, they had a sorority program that was well received for a little bit, and it died off shortly thereafter. But no, we have the Sweetheart program, which if a chapter has a charter, they're eligible to have a Sweetheart, which is basically a female liaison, helps them with planning fun events or planning a charity or whatever whatever the chapter needs, and they usually get a nice tiara and a sash, something. C. Alan Pattison's has a cape for the Sweetheart,
Damn, their costumes are the best. I mean, the DeMolay costumes are these black robes. It's like what I thought the Knight Templar costumes would look like. But then I found out, no, you look like a Confederate soldier wearing a Captain Crunch hat. And I was like, no, that is not what I thought DeMolay was going to look like. Then I saw the DeMolay. I mean, I'm talking not DeMolay. I'm talking about the Templars.
The Knight Templar,
in New York, right? In the consistory, I believe. Because I was really interested in that. That's why I joined the York Rite. I wanted to get involved, and then they showed up, and I was like, "What are you wearing?" No, not for me. But then I saw a DeMolay
It's expensive
chapter.
too.
Oh, I heard it's like $1,000 to put that costume together.
Oh man, it's bad. Yeah.
To me, it looks like a Confederate outfit, basically, with like a, it's got
a chapeau. Isn't that what it's called? A chapeau or something like that?
Got a nice big white mohawk that's real fluffy.
Right.
So I saw a DeMolay, and they're wearing what I thought that an actual Knight Templar would wear. It's like robes. You look pretty badass, I gotta say, and they're black. And you got
they're black now.
They weren't always black.
No, there used to actually be different colors for every position.
Oh.
Every position had its own color at one point in time, and then I want to say like early 2000s, a little after, either before I joined or after I joined. We had both when I was in, but I don't know at what point they actually quit using them, because we would still use them on and off. But yeah, I can't remember all the colors. But yeah, every office had a different color, or most of the offices had a different color, and then eventually they just came out with everybody had a black one.
Now, are you familiar with how DeMolay started in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I have never read Hey Dad. I've never, I haven't dived deep into it. I've been told a million times, to be honest with you, but history was never one of my strong suits. I know the important parts, and
Oh, I'm
that's
sure you do. Well,
um,
I think it's fascinating. I pulled it up, and I thought I'd read it real quick. The history of
yeah.
DeMolay. So in 1919, while employed as the social services director for the Scottish Rite Bodies in Kansas City, Missouri, Frank Sherman Land hired a teenager by the name of Lewis Gordon Lower to perform odd jobs around the building. As the two became friends, Land found out that Lower's father had died a short time before, and that the young man missed having the guidance of a father. So Lower had other friends whose fathers were not in the home, whether from divorce or abandonment or death, and um, and that these young men would also like to have an adult male that they could go to for guidance, basically. So he said, I tell you what, why don't you invite some of your friends to the Scottish Rite building and we'll talk about starting a club. Within a few days, Lower brought 8 of his friends to a meeting, and the 9 men agreed that the idea of a club was a good one, and soon the Order of DeMolay was born. Within 3 years, chapters had been established in 39 of the 48 states, then 48 states, and the District of Columbia, and it's now worldwide. They've changed their name to DeMolay International. Fascinating to me that it started from a Mason who saw a kid who needed a dad figure and said, go get some of your friends. We're going to start a club. So the influence of Masonry in DeMolay has got to be profound.
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes without saying. They're our sponsoring body. You don't necessarily have to have a Blue Lodge sponsor you, but I mean, it's the most common that you'll find is a Blue Lodge sponsoring. Yeah, or a Mason of some kind, whether if it's a shrine or a Scottish Rite Club or what have you. You don't have to necessarily be sponsored by a Blue Lodge to have a DeMolay chapter, though.
You don't?
No,
Okay.
no. There's actually, I want to say at one point in Georgia, a friend of mine is the executive officer there now, Mark Griffiths. He was an advisor whenever in Florida when I was coming up. I think, at one point in time, he was talking to a Prince Hall Shrine Club or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Because it doesn't matter.
It's not an official Masonic body, right? The DeMolay.
We're an official dependent body, yes, but we don't have to use. Yeah, we are.
I'm
as far as I know, if we're not, that's news to me.
You probably are. What I'm showing is, if you're watching the video, you're looking at the. This is basically the logo for DeMolay.
The shield. Yeah.
And the crown appearing in the self-adopted heraldic arms, which is the emblem of the order, contains 10 rubies. You can see them around the crown, each representing one of the original 9 members and the organization's founder, Frank S. Land.
Yep. And they used to be all pearls.
It says the rubies were originally portrayed as pearls. As each founding member died, the pearl representing him was changed to a ruby.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there you go. If you ever wondered,
there was still a couple of pearls on there when I got initiated.
Really? Oh, yeah, 1919. I guess they were kids. So
yeah. No, there was still a couple whenever I was in. The last one just died, I want to say in 2014 or something like that. I could be wrong on that. I'm not sure. I know it wasn't super long ago.
So you got the knight, the swords, you got the what were rubies, what were pearls, now rubies to represent those founding members that created DeMolay.
There's actually a presentation about this. It's called the Shield Talk. Yes, about the logo. It goes all in depth into it. That I'm hoping we will have one of the young men in our district learn to start presenting to the different lodges. There's a couple of different presentations that DeMolay has like that. The Ceremonial Light, the Flower Talk, the Shield Talk. Knighthood has one called the Rose Talk, I believe. There's several of them. Basically, it just tells you what the organization is about, what we stand for, and their different speeches, focusing on different aspects of it.
So that, I guess that begs the question of what does DeMolay stand for? In my research, I found DeMolay has 7 cardinal virtues. They're taught as the basic ideals of, I guess, being a DeMolay is to
being a man, being a person.
just being a man.
They are the standards of which you are to base your life as a DeMolay. Yes, they are filial love, reverence for sacred things, courtesy, comradeship, fidelity, cleanness, and patriotism.
Yes, exactly.
If you use those 7 things and you actually use the teachings that we have for them, you will, inevitably be a good person, a better person.
A better man, a better leader, just like Masonry,
Everything.
right? Just
Right.
trying to make you a better person.
Exactly.
So it makes sense. We see Freemasonry in the tenets of DeMolay. Although it's a little different. Like filial love is something that you don't really hear a lot of in Western thought. Like most Eastern religion is based on filial love. Like it's all about don't dishonor your family, and you bringing shame to the family. Literally, you'll kill yourself for doing that because of reverence for your family. But you don't hear it much here in the West, and it's your first one, filial love, which is pretty.
It's very first one, man. You wouldn't be here without your parents, and just that by itself earns some respect. Now, you're gonna have those people that maybe their mom wasn't in their life, maybe their dad wasn't in their life, whatever else. And I'm not gonna say that you still gotta treat them with the same respect as anything else. That's your battle to fight, not mine. But if you do have parents that are there for you and brought you into this world and help you survive, then you owe them at the very least respect.
Respect, right. But there's another kind of filial love, which is, we have an almighty parent. And so you could roll God into that, right? Like your love for God and respect and reverence for God too is part of that filial love.
Right.
Then you have reverence for sacred things. Wow.
Yes.
That sounds cool. Reverence for sacred things.
Reverence for all that is sacred. A young man crossing the threshold of DeMolay for the first time must professes a deep and abiding faith in one living and true God. Without this steadfast faith in the grace of our Heavenly Father, our toil would be for nothing. That's part of the ceremony of light that I was talking about. So basically, you need it's promoting having a spiritual belief and following a code in that sense. Now, I think the most common is probably Christianity, but we are worldwide. So there's DeMolay of all different religions.
That's awesome.
So it's basically just promoting what you believe.
Here again, we see Masonry because that's a very basic tenet of Masonry. Got to believe in a higher power, but we don't care what path you take to get there. Courtesy, I like that. This is kind of an old-fashioned concept that a man should be courteous. Kind, respect, and philanthropy all kind of roll into courtesy. And I didn't have a father growing up, which was worked to my benefit because I used like television people that I saw as my role model for a man. And obviously that's not real, but I learned to open door for women to be the last one in, to lift things and carry things for people, especially women. And so I ingrained that in my children, my boys. And I'm so happy to see that this is part of the tenets or the cardinal virtues of DeMolay.
It's essential, man. Just a little bit. Well, I almost said it the wrong way. Just a little bit of caring, just caring about another individual, and putting somebody else above yourself every once in a while. Holding the door for that guy at racetrack that's going into the gas station or whatever. Just little things like that go a long way.
Then you got comradeship.
Comradeship. That's the biggest. Well, it's the one that is put the most focus on because we are a fraternity. Right. So any fraternity is going to promote brotherhood, having a sense of belonging with each other and keeping each other accountable for things and different things like that. So that's why they put an emphasis on it being in the center of the 7 because, millions. Because of that camaraderie, it should hold each other accountable and help each other every chance you get.
And the explanation I'm looking at says being a faithful friend, not only in good times, but also in hard times. which is something
which
critically
which also means telling a friend when he's messing up.
right.
It's
Do
not
that.
just being there for him when he asks you for help. It's not just being there, to whisper wise counsel. It's to tell him, hey, dude, what are you doing?
Right. Dude, this isn't going to
Fix
end well
yourself.
if you keep doing this, man.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's something you do for people you care about. Nobody likes to have difficult conversations. But if you care about somebody, it's worth your time to try to help them. And that's also important in Masonry. And we talk about whispering wise counsel in the ear of an erring brother. I don't know how many people do that these days, but I'm glad to see that they're starting with kids.
A lot of people miss that part of whisper wise counsel in the ear, instead of
want to stand up in an open meeting and say it in front of all the brothers, whatever's on their mind sometimes.
Hey, you did that wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Oh God, here we go.
And then you've got fidelity.
Fidelity, yes.
Fidelity.
So, yes. I mean, doing what you say you're gonna do. If you hold a promise to somebody, keep it. Whether it be a promise to God, a promise to your friend, to your parents, whatever it is. I mean, just do what you say you're gonna do. Essentially,
fidelity. And so, even the namesake for the organization, DeMolay, it comes from the man Jacques DeMolay, who was the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar.
The last one.
The last one, because the Knights Templar were disbanded sometime around 1313. We did a whole section on the Knights Templar. Go watch the episode because
there you go.
It's awesome.
There you go.
I love the whole idea of the Templars, what they stood for, what they did in society, that people have no concept of how important they were to our ideas of banking. And
that's yeah. No, like you said, we could be on that topic forever. we could be on that forever.
In a day when brigands would routinely rob you and you had to get from A to B on a long trip, you could leave your really expensive crap with people and pick it up when you got there. Like, what? Yep. That's essentially what a bank is. Here's my cash. I'm going to go pull it out of the ATM when I get to Monaco on my vacation, and I don't want to bring my cash with me. Well, there you go. The Templars were doing it in the 1300s.
Right.
And sure, they didn't have a keypad or a PIN code. You had to actually use a secret word or a secret handshake to identify yourself. Right. So now we get to like how the Templars are infiltrating Masonry, because we have secret words and secret handshakes that we use to identify.
Well, on top of the fact that, I mean, these are all rumors and speculation, but when it was disbanded, all of those knights had to do something. So there's talk about them going into different workmen's guilds, like maybe brick masons, or maybe
and of course is that they had a huge naval fleet that was never recovered.
I've heard this. Yes.
So, I mean, there's a lot of evidence that they actually went to the Caribbean, and that the pirates of the Caribbean are actually the descendants of the original Templars that disbanded.
I have heard that. Yes,
it makes sense, right? They have a code that they live by, the pirate code, and all this stuff. I mean, they would obviously not have had the capacity to teach them to continue to be Templars. But generations later, you would have had people that still live by some kind of a code, because they would definitely pass that down. But I digress. Fidelity. So we're talking about Jacques DeMolay died. He died basically upholding his pledge to his brothers.
Yep.
I mean,
and was offered all of the riches that he could imagine. Was offered power beyond his imagination, and just no, give them up. No.
Right.
He kill me if you got to. I'm not doing that. No.
He died. He had actually, I believe, given some kind of a statement that he had done bad, that they were bad. And upon, thinking about it, when he came out and he was supposed to say all this stuff publicly, recanted and said, no, this is a bunch of BS. We never did anything wrong. We're here for God. And this is a bunch of you suck. I'll see you in hell. And then he let himself be burned at the stake, sticking to his.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that he came out with a statement and then recanted. It was that somebody said he said this.
Right.
And he's like, no, I didn't.
Right.
If you have documents saying that, they're purged. Like, there's no way. That didn't happen.
No.
And, they burned him at the stake for it.
I mean, these Templars are being tortured for years. It's not like you spent a couple days in the cell. They were torturing you for years to try to get you to say what, just to die. Just admit something so we'll kill you, And when you get tortured beyond that point, you'd say anything to just make it stop.
Right.
That's what happened to most of those guys. They were tortured to the point that they would rather go against their order just to die than continue to be tortured.
Right. But I couldn't imagine being in that situation, man, to be honest with you. I mean,
yeah,
we'd all love to say that we would be Jacques DeMolay and stand up on your principles like that, but I don't know.
No.
I don't know if I can tell you that.
Not like getting burned at the stake is an easy way to go.
No. Holy crap, dude.
Can you imagine?
And that's after like 7 years of torture that they did to him before he was burned at the stake. Yeah, no.
In his home country in France, burned him at the stake, and the public was around to watch. So, wow, that's fidelity. Then you have cleanliness.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But
not only the bodily cleanness, right? Cleanness of every thought, word, and deed. To actually, think about things and not necessarily to use the foul language or all the dirty stuff that we all try our best to stay away from, but some of us don't do a great job of it.
As long as you're trying, that's all that matters. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
We call this purity in Masonry. They call it cleanliness in DeMolay, but I think it's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, same thing.
It's like
same thing.
Being pure of heart, pure motivations, coming at things from a good purpose. And we wear white to symbolize purity in Freemasonry. White's, white glove treatment. We've all heard it. Like it's definitely associated with cleanliness. And finally, patriotism. A love for your country.
Yep.
A willingness to defend your country and your homeland, including public spaces, places, schools, asylums, orphanages, hospitals, supporting people in need. That's all part of being a patriot, right?
Sure. And just living a good life in behalf of your country, just being a better person because you're an American or because you're,
whatever.
Insert country here, because essentially you being a better person is helpful to your country. It is work for your country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're representing.
But so in DeMolay for years, it's always the question, the question that you quiz the DeMolay with or whoever with. If you had to get rid of one candle or one virtue, what would it be? And most of the time, people's answer is patriotism at the end of it because, they think about it just meaning America or whatever else, when really all 7 of them are important. But if you encompass all the rest of them, 7 kind of 7 will happen anyway.
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense. But it doesn't end with those 7 virtues. You've got DeMolay defends 3 fundamental freedoms. You've got
I can't quote them off the top of my head.
We didn't prep this. You nailed those other ones. I was like, wow, I didn't expect you to know that as much as
I better know those. The 7 are talked about at every single meeting, you better know the 7, right?
The 3 fundamental freedoms that DeMolay defends are religious freedom. That's represented by any holy book, independent.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. All right, yes.
Civil freedom,
yes,
and intellectual freedom.
Intellectual liberties, yes.
And
civil.
That kind of, there are 3 ruffians in the Master Mason degree, and
allegedly,
there's 3 ruffians selling cigars. I can tell you that.
There you go. By the way, I got some people that want to try those. I need to get with Sean or somebody.
It's getting relaunched. We've got new. Wow, this is really sidetracking now. We got new.
I'm sorry.
There's new formulas and new wraps. So actually, it's improved and cheaper. We're lowering the cost and increasing the quality. So it's going to be good.
Awesome.
Little something for everybody.
I still haven't tried the original ones.
I mean, I haven't either. I'm not a cigar smoker, so I couldn't tell you.
Well.
But the people that know this stuff say that it's gotten better.
Good.
So I can't wait. We're in the process of relaunching that soon. Stay tuned.
Sweet.
But we in Masonry, we have people that try to take away three times something important to you. And when you go through the mentoring after the degree, they kind of talk about how this really represents is they're trying to take away your freedoms in different aspects.
Okay.
So you've got someone that's trying to attack your ability to speak, which is like a civil freedom. You've got someone that's attacking your groin, which is your family, and that's the seat of your religious freedom. And then you've got someone that's attacking your mind, which is your intellectual freedom. If you think about it, those ruffians are tying directly into this. When I see this, I see the ruffians.
I've never thought about that. Yeah. But there's a good chance that the guys that putting together the ritual did. I mean, it was written by Scottish Rite Masons.
Makes sense. And then you've got an ethical code composed of the following statements. DeMolay serves God. A DeMolay honors all womanhood. I like that one. Honors all womanhood.
Yes.
This is important stuff to teach young men, that women aren't your playthings. They're to be honored and respected,
Right.
As people. A DeMolay loves and honors his parents. A DeMolay is honest. A DeMolay is loyal to ideals and friends. A DeMolay practices honest toil. So you're not going to be a gambler as a DeMolay when you grow up. You're going to be earning an honest living, something that's legal and respected. A DeMolay, his word is as good as his bond. A DeMolay is courteous. A DeMolay is at all times a gentleman. A DeMolay is clean in mind and body. A DeMolay stands unswervingly for the public schools. A DeMolay always bears the reputation of good and law-abiding citizen. And a DeMolay, by precept and example, must preserve the high standards to which he has pledged himself. Man, I sure could have used that when I was a young guy. Somebody teaching me these values. We get them. I got them from television in a roundabout way. But that
PBS, I guess, was pretty good for some of that.
Yeah,
depending on which shows you were watching.
Like Sesame Street.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah. They were kind of teaching some of that stuff to kids. But I don't know. They don't get that today. Kids are really growing up on YouTube stars and Instagram people. And it's far, far from this, what they're learning. So.
Yeah, unfortunately. But you know what? Never say never. Don't give up hope. One of those things.
I kind of see how important this is now more than ever. That kids have a place where they can go to learn, to be honest and good and respectful, kind.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, DeMolay is kind of giving them opportunities to learn leadership, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of for me, that's the point, right? You get a guy in, because if you're just coming there for a boring meeting and going home, then what's the point? So right now we're in restructure. I'm not even worried about ritual in most of the chapters in our district right now. I want you getting the guys together, planning a fun event, and go do it. Meaning not you plan an event and tell the boys to come to it. No, you get with the young men that you have, say, hey, what do you want to do? Okay, well, what do we need to do this? Okay, first you need what you're doing. Okay, then you got to facilitate the place. Okay, is there a scheduling? Do we need to find a time to do this? How much is it going to cost to do this? Okay, how are you coming up with the money for this? Or are you expecting all the chapter members to pay their way? All those things, you're helping the young men put those together and then run the event, and then also communicate to all the members and whatever else. So what I like to tell people is first you put somebody on a committee. So a committee is making this plan to plan this event, okay? And now you're a voice on this committee. So eventually, after you've been in a committee for so much, well, why don't you try heading up this committee next time, okay? And then once you've headed up a committee and you're responsible for facilitating the meetings and figuring out everybody's ideas and putting it on paper and giving a report at the meeting. Okay, eventually, after you've done that so much, now go into a leadership role in the chapter, become a counselor, because now you know how to do different things. You just have to put them all together.
Wow.
Kind of thing. And in my opinion, that's how you build the future leaders. And that's how DeMolay can build the future leaders.
There's so much that goes into what you just described, from like planning financially for something to managing personalities on teams to dealing with failure. Because if you let those kids do that stuff, eventually something's not going to work out and it's going to be a shit show. And that failure is something they're going to learn from. And I like I said, I was only limited in my involvement in the Sarasota chapter. I was for a few months. But what I saw was parents wanting to do all those things you just said the kids should do. And
that's the problem.
That seemed to me like it was creating it was kind of like the opposite of what is supposed to be happening, where what are the kids learning if the parents are doing all that stuff? It's just daycare at that point, right? Like,
exactly. Right. That's not what DeMolay is for.
Yeah.
We're not just here to watch your kids for you for a little while. That's just not what we do. Don't get me wrong. We're happy to, but we're going to have a purpose for it,
Yeah. Imagine that, a place where your kid can go and try something out and try to be a leader and potentially fail and still get support after the failure to show him that you can basically learn from your failures, and it makes you stronger, smarter, and better the next time you do the thing that you failed at. Those are crazy important life lessons. Crazy important life lessons.
Right.
And if they don't let the kids do that stuff, they're never going to learn those lessons.
It's
is that a
right now it's hard because
I only had, like I said, limited exposure in DeMolay, and I saw that as a problem in just a couple months I was exposed to it. Is this a big problem in DeMolay, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it whenever I was a kid, advisors overstepping, but there's a fine line. It's not like there is a handbook, but so I can't say there's not a there's not a handbook telling you how to do this. There is, but it leaves something to be desired in it, I guess. It doesn't take into account the personal things with this, because problem is you have so much you're competing with now. When I was a kid, you had Boy Scouts, sports, and DeMolay. At least in my what I knew about, really. Now with the internet, kids today have so many different options of what they can do to spend their time.
Yeah.
Sitting in a meeting, learning about leadership, it's usually not on top of their list.
Right.
Which, to your point, when you were saying about advertising to the parents of the young men, that's why it's so important. Because of course you're not gonna, a kid just wants to go on Fortnite or whatever in the heck they're doing now. That's all they want to do. Then leave me alone. I don't want to go sit in a room with a bunch of guys telling me
I'm a 40
better myself.
I'm about to be in tomorrow. I'll be a 49-year-old man. And if you left me to my own devices, I'd be sitting in a pile of my own feces within a couple months. Like, we as men need to be pushed outside our comfort zones, and especially even for kids, because they have to learn at an early age. They learn a lot faster when they're young than an old guy like me. To change now is going to be crazy hard. But when I was 12 or 13, I was like, Clay, you could have shaped me into a great man if you took the time. And these kids have the potential to be great men. They just need to be molded. But I think the key problem is you have to have examples as leaders.
Yeah.
If you have poor examples as leaders, how are they ever going to get those lessons? I mean,
this is another thing to teach, to hit back on the worshipful master and just showing up. to things.
Yeah.
So now somebody can steal this idea and run with it. I'm happy if you do. I wanted to make an award for Masons called the Past Worshipful Masters Meritorious Service Award, because DeMolay has what's called a Past Master Counselor's Meritorious Service Award. Basically, you have to follow a strict guidelines on how to run your year and make sure you observe all obligatory days that you have. You have to make sure that you and your officers know your parts from memory to do all the ritual work. You have to get so many people in. There's a whole criteria for it. And then at the end of it, you can say, I got my PMC MSA. I had a good term. I would say year, but it's 6 months. So I wanted to develop an award like that, but have it Masonic youth based, where the Worshipful Master has to attend X amount of Masonic youth functions during his year, has to show up to their installations, has to go whatever else, and be that face of Masonry to the young men.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I'm not a lawyer. I don't speak legalese, and legislation writing is not my forte. But if somebody else wants to do that, and I'm happy to have a worshipful at the end to add a worshipful to the bottom of the legislation for it.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely, if you like, I can include your email on the podcast, and if people want to reach out to you to help out with that, they can.
Sure. Yeah.
I
VeniceMaster23@gmail.
There you go.
Now I'm going to get a bazillion emails. That'd be great.
Hail the light, Illuminati. You're going to get all those now.
Right.
It's got master in it. Oh, man.
Right. Oh, yeah. Dang it.
But,
dang it.
I think that when you look at DeMolay, now it's 1919, so they've been around for a long time now. And
yep, we just had our centennial a couple years ago.
The way I got exposed to DeMolay was through a man named Russell Glendenning.
Great man.
Who was kind of somebody that became I don't want to say a mentor, because he would probably not like that. He never mentored me, but he was somebody that I watched closely and tried to impress in Masonry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you call that.
An influence.
He influenced me. Yeah. And he was huge in DeMolay. And one day, he sent me a video of him interviewing somebody for the International Hall of Fame in DeMolay. And so I was watching him interview this famous person when he was a young man. He was probably in his 20s when he was doing this interview, which is crazy to see Rusty in his 20s. I knew him as a 70-year-old man,
I was expecting to see a dinosaur walking behind him or something when I watched the video. Yeah.
Jurassic Park theme plays in the background. Bum, 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 bum. So, I went down a rabbit hole. You have Walt Disney.
He was part of the original chapter, actually, yeah.
Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
You got so many famous people that are in the International Hall of Fame, from sports stars to actors. I'm not going to name them all.
The Undertaker was a DeMolay, actually, and he turned down the Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah. He was approached for the Hall of Fame, and he said because he did not base his wrestling career on how a DeMolay should be, he didn't feel he didn't want his picture in that Hall of Fame for that. He didn't think he was the guy. Which, honestly, there's argument says that that's an even better reason for him to be there.
Yeah,
but
that's very chivalric of him to try to take the high road. Because most people, if they're offered any kind of opportunity to be in any kind of lasting thing to have their name in it, they jump at it.
Right.
So that means he learned the lessons, I think, of DeMolay. That's impressive. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. There's a couple astronauts on here. There's several politicians on the list. Pete Rose, famous baseball player. Air Force captains, philanthropists, businessmen. These are impressive names that were part of this organization.
Right.
And people always ask, they think Bill Clinton was a Freemason, but he wasn't. He was a DeMolay.
He was not. He was in DeMolay, though.
Yeah.
He was not a Freemason, though.
Which, I guess you could say, I think maybe being a DeMolay is more impressive than being a Freemason. Because to get those lessons in your youth is probably going to make you a better man than coming into it in your 30s and 40s and trying to learn how to be a better man.
When I was coming up, it was a thing to put on your resume if you were a past master counselor or anything like that. You know, it was something that um, I was told anyway that meant something. And I mean, today, as long as you word it right, it does mean something if you think about it and you actually go into detail while you're filling out your resume what all you did, what your duties were,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a lot.
and it could look good for you.
It is a lot. You're really a leader in your youth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is how I saw you doing some ritual work. I asked you to help me with some ritual work. You said yes with way short notice. Happened more than once, let's be honest. And I was like, I don't know what's up with this guy, but he's some kind of savant. And they said, no, he was a DeMolay. Like it's known in Freemasonry, if you were a DeMolay, you're probably going to be a decent ritualist as a Mason. Is that fair to say?
Right. Yes and no. So I grew up with a ton of brothers that hated ritual and they knew their part for, you know, opening and closing. If they had a part in initiation, they knew that and that was it. But in just like in Masonry, there are brothers that, you know, it either comes naturally to, or it's just that something that they work toward to get good at, or
Yeah.
either way. In my case, I kind of had a natural thing to it, and then also it was I thought it was cool. I liked doing it. It was one. So for me, it was something I worked at.
Okay.
But no, not all DeMolay are ritualists, but they have an unfair advantage, you'll say, because they've had to memorize something since they were, you know, a kid. I mean, even DeMolay's obligation, I'm pretty sure, is longer than the Master Mason
Really?
obligation.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it is.
And
Yeah.
they have to memorize that?
Yep. Oh yeah, they have a question and answer similar to what Lodge has, but most of theirs is the obligation. Whereas ours is a lot of things. Also, there's an obligation in it. There's a couple of questions and then there's an obligation. You know.
Do they do a proficiency like Mason?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
So now I'm not learned up on all of the rules like as I should be at the moment. But when I was in, you had to be proficient in order to vote in the lodge, in the chapter. You had to be proficient to compete in any competition at conclaves or mini conclaves via, you know, be it sport or ritual, otherwise, whatever. It didn't matter. You had to be proficient to do anything, basically. Now I think it's a little more lax. I think you still have to be proficient to compete, either that or be working on your proficiency currently, or something like that. There used to be a proficiency JBU that we had at conclaves that you could take in lieu of being proficient. You just had to go sit through the class to help you learn your obligations and stuff. Then you could still compete. But I think it's a little more lax now just because of, you know, we're all hurting for membership at this point. So if we can get 5 guys, like I said, and just get them to start learning some stuff, we'll let any of them have a vote because it's what they want to do. It's their organization, not mine. You know, just because I think that they need to do this might not be right. It's their organization. I'm just here to guide them.
Right.
And if I tell them no, I better have a good reason.
Right.
You know, if you tell it as a DeMolay advisor, if you tell a kid no, there has to be a reason. You know, you can't just say no because you didn't want to deal with that right now. No, there has to be a reason, you know.
So
a while back, yeah.
No, go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead.
A while back, we had a deal with one of the chapters wanted to get PayPal up, like wanted to be able to have an electronic form of getting money in, you know, fundraising wise. And one of the advisors was initially had said no. And I stepped in and I was like, why is it a no? Like, why? Because our bank won't do that. Well, we need to figure out what the problem is with that because any bank should be able to do this. And eventually they were able to get it and whatever else. But the big thing is, you know, there's a reason that he said no because, well, that bank was telling us that we can't do that. Okay, that's a legitimate reason why you can't do that. But it's still a problem that we need to solve that problem. And it's, you know, we're in the 21st century, you know, PayPal's a thing. Why are we with this bank?
Yeah.
Move to another bank that will let us do this, you know.
That's very progressive thinking you've got there. I hope DeMolay moves quicker than Lodges because that would be about a 1.5 year change to get them to move banks. at a blue lodge
Oh,
level?
this didn't happen overnight. This was
Okay.
over months of time. This is just the fast forward. I've been around for a little bit, but yeah,
How old are you now?
I am 29. I'll be 30
Oh
in
my
September.
God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, I know you're young,
Yes, sir.
but I don't know. I guess we talk so much. I never really think about the age difference, but we do have a pretty big age difference.
It's a bit of a gap.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how old you were. I figured you were in your early 40s or late 30s.
Yeah, no, man, I'm going to be 50 soon. It's crazy.
Yeah, I see that.
You're
man.
about to be
I
30?
see that.
What? So
Yep.
it's like, you don't have to be like a president of a huge multinational organization to be a leader.
No.
You just got to be a good person, right? And like trying to live the tenets of this stuff, because these kids need examples. So
And
if you're listening
also,
and you're like, oh,
right.
I'm not on the level to be leading kids, it's like, wait, but are you? Because no one's expecting you to be like a political leader or a Bill Clinton. Like, you don't have to be that to get involved in DeMolay. What you have to be is somebody who wants to help the youth become better, to grow into being better men. That's really all they're asking of you, right? As an adult, to be involved in the DeMolay, they just want you to be good with kids and like support them and like teach them these values, right?
Right, yeah, and help them along where they need it. Now, and also knowing that being a leader doesn't mean do everything yourself. Quite the opposite, actually. Everybody needs help doing. Not if you try to do everything yourself in anything, whether it be lodge, DeMolay, whether it be a sports team, whatever it is, you're going to burn yourself out. Now, you might succeed at it for a little bit, but eventually it's going to come to a head.
Yeah, and then how do you repeat that? Like, what happens when you're gone? Like,
right.
It needs to be
right.
You got to create a coalition of people, and it needs to be a leader creates systems that can be passed down and replicated by other people, not themselves.
Right.
I mean,
and I'm a firm believer that one guy shouldn't be in charge, or one person shouldn't be in charge forever. It needs to, so if you have an advisory council and you have leadership in your advisory council, that needs to change every few years, just to get a new set of ideas out, or whatever. Be it a chapter dad or advisory chairman or advisory council chairman, whatever. Some chapters don't have the luxury because, chairman has to be a master mason, and maybe they only have one master mason that's an advisor. So that guy is stuck being the chairman forever because, well, nobody else can do it, that kind of thing. But in most cases, like now it's a little bit before I joined, only men could be chapter dads or chapter advisor. The official chapter advisor, the liaison between the young men and the advisory council is the chapter dad or chapter advisor now. Now it can either be a man or a woman. It doesn't have to be a master mason. It doesn't, whatever else. And I've known some great women that were awesome chapter advisors. And I've known some guys that really sucked at it. So
me too. Me too. Some of them were close to me. I saw it firsthand, even though I wasn't terribly involved. I did see some problems. And whenever I see problems, I assume that it's not local, that it's probably stuff that, that's like the first lesson I had in Masonry. All the negative things I saw, I thought, oh, it's just this lodge or it's just this guy. Nah, like every district has a lodge like that. Every lodge has a guy like that. You know what I mean? These are systemic things.
It's just a person problem. That's just the type of personality you have.
It seems to always come down to being people as the problem.
Right.
So we need to be very careful about who we put in a leadership role with children. Because if they see adults arguing with each other over what food's going to be at an event, or they shouldn't even be having that argument, right? That's the stuff the kids should be deciding. But they do argue over things like that. They do.
Right.
Like that's what the kids see and are going to take as an example of acceptable behavior. So you really do need to check. I mean, that should be like that should be the entrance of every entryway into a lodge. Leave your ego here. Don't bring it with you.
Right. Yeah, no. Well, as soon as it stops becoming about the young men, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like as soon as
It's
it
that
stops
simple,
becoming
right?
about them, you're wrong. You're whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, stop. Because if it's not for them, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And you're not going to do any good. You're going to do more harm than anything. Um, and I have seen, unfortunately, in DeMolay at the chapter level all the way up to the state level, where there are certain people that maybe they didn't get that notoriety in Blue Lodge, but they could get it at DeMolay.
Mm.
And we have to stop that. We have to do a better job at guarding the West Gate, as we say as Masons, but for our advisors. We always need adult. Yep. Old lady just came in with the kiddos, so totally go.
So let's talk a little bit about you. Now, everybody knows generally what DeMolay is now. We did a pretty good job there, I think, explaining it to people.
Sure.
There's a lot more to it for sure that we could go into, but that's a good 45 minutes is a good synopsis of this is what it is about.
Sure, this is what we stand for. This is what and biggest question is, how do we help? How do we keep going forward? And I think with the right people in place, we can do that. And we're starting to get a good sense of that. I think we're in our district anyway, of getting the right people for the right job.
I mean, I, honestly, as a marketing guy, I see so many ways to grow the membership that no one. I guess I really haven't tried that hard to talk about it, but I could see. I mean, we could blow DeMolay up with just a little bit of effort.
Let's do it.
It's like you miss the part that people don't like to hear. A little bit of effort. Like you're gonna have to.
I'm not scared.
I know you're not scared. That's why you're in a position of leadership, and you probably are the person I should talk to about my ideas, because you could actually get them implemented in more than one.
Certainly try.
Yeah. You can definitely whisper wise counsel into people's ears.
Right. I can pester people. I'm pretty good at that.
Try to influence them in a positive way. But I do see this is needed. I think the parents would jump at the opportunity to have their kids be part of an organization like this if they knew about it. They just don't know about it. And I think the kids, once you get them in, will want their friends to be part of it too, once they see what it really is and they kind of get the bigger picture. So I think the first hump is to get the parents to understand that this is a pretty low cost way to get their kids a very high quality experience. And
$60 one-time membership fee, depending on your chapter, could be more, but for the most part, like our chapter is $100, but you get stuff out of it before that. But it's lifetime membership. You don't have to pay to be a member at all after that. The only thing else that'll come out of your pocket is whatever the boys don't fundraise for. So if they don't fundraise for it and they want to go to conclave, well, the chapter doesn't have the money for it. They want to go. I mean, one of those things. If you got to figure out a way. But that's why we, try to tell these guys, fundraise. When I was in, if we wanted to do something, we had to fundraise for it. I walked up every single stair in the UCF arena multiple times as a kid selling peanuts at the Shrine Circus, because it was one of our biggest fundraisers. I shucked corn at Zellwood for the Zellwood Corn Festival every year, because we wanted to go do things. So we had to do things to make money for that. And that's part of the experience, I think, is actually it's not all fun and games. Sometimes you got to work.
That's you're teaching responsibility and like how to actually get something done, because that's going to be the case throughout your whole life. You're always going to need money to do the things you want to do, and it might require some hard work to get it. And then there are so many communities where kids just don't have opportunities to like really be in a position of leadership within their own peers. They just would never have it. Even in Sarasota, there's a community that I wanted to hit aggressively because I know it's full of kids that would, with an opportunity to learn public speaking skills and organization and leadership skills, it would be a game changer for their future life. And you're talking about $50 in Sarasota chapter, $60 in Venice, it sounds like. Lifetime.
It's 100 in Venice, but
100. Sorry, 100. But that's for life. And from 12 to 21, that's the only investment it's going to cost you to get all these lessons and experiences. there's just nothing comparable out there for a kid that can offer that kind of quality for that price. Sorry, doesn't exist.
Right. There are other organizations, don't get me wrong. Like Boy Scouts of America is an organization, and they do a lot as well. They were founded by Masons also. That's another organization. When I was a kid, it was always said Boy Scouts teaches you how to survive in, outdoor environment and in the wilderness. Although that's not 100% true. They also have core values too that help with your day to day. Whereas DeMolay is going to more prepare you for a business life, and just life in general.
Right.
Which I think it's kind of sort of, that's a watered down version of explaining it, because DeMolay can be whatever you make it. They can teach whatever, whatever subject the boys need to learn about.
I've seen it.
But,
I'm on social media a lot, so I see a lot of DeMolay chapters doing like you did. You did a fundraiser that involved paintball and like shoot an adult and get, hey, here's for X amount of dollars you can shoot Tim or you can shoot Chris, and the kids can do it, and that's a fundraiser that's fun. But they got to organize it, and they got to promote it, and then they got to get people to show up and have food. You organized the one that I went to. There was 2 things going on, I believe. There was a chili competition or some kind of food competition happening.
Mac and cheese competition. Mac and cheese. I actually didn't have anything to do with that. I showed up. I was a target. I did not, but credit where credit is due. The boys had that, put that all together, and the advisors helped it along. I took a back seat for the last couple of years with the chapter, because I had some stuff, and I still have stuff going on, family life wise, that I had to deal with, that had to take precedent. But man, I was really glad to see that event was a success. The boys showed up, they worked it. I think they made a little bit of money at that event. I'm not sure the exact numbers. And it was Bob Gatons' wife that won it too, and that was cool. And and we got to eat really good mac and cheese, and then we got shot with paintballs. But
Bob Gatons is a Mason from Englewood Lodge, Englewood number 360. And I believe he's like senior deacon or junior ward, something like that.
Junior ward now.
Oh, good.
Bob's junior ward now.
Got to go to his installation, because Bob is someone, in our district that I see as being a leader, not just in his lodge, but also in the district. A really good example.
No, right. He's a business owner too. I mean, just
he seems like a very solid person. And
he is.
I always in Masonry try to surround myself with people that I felt were solid people. So he was one of the guys that I try to bring in to my circle, so someone that I could, talk to about things. And to survive the year I had when I was master, I needed that. I needed you and Bob and Barry Hart and Tom.
Don't get it twisted. I needed you too. Shoot, I called you several times for different things, for one thing or another. It went both ways.
We're kind of like all in it together. We're all moving in the same direction. We're all trying to get the same kind of stuff done. We just happen to be in positions of leadership in our little patch of dirt at the same time, which was fortuitous for us because we worked together really well. It was no problem. I never felt
I'm still so proud of what we accomplished last year.
I'm going to come get it. And we had like a healthy rivalry. And then there are unhealthy rivalries where it's like you start to teach people that those people are bad and these people are good. I'm talking about young guys coming up and then their lines. And some of that had happened in our district. I mean, I was part of it. I saw it. And again, that's like not anything unique to us. It happens in every district. There's always lodges like that.
It happens in more than one group. I mean, it's not just Masonry that does that.
Men,
you can go in any group. Yeah. It's because we're men and people.
Our egos and our little picks and quarrels and all the things we get caught in.
As you'll learn in life, as anybody will learn in life, people suck.
We all suck. It's just we all suck, and no one wants to admit it, but we suck too.
But, yeah, me included. We all suck.
People
people
that's
suck.
What I was kind of getting at, because you've been a leader in a lodge, Now you're a leader in a wider area for another organization, and your leadership is going to continue into the future. You will certainly be leading in Freemasonry for a long time in different capacities. Would you?
I need to start learning the 2-letter word a little bit better. But yeah, probably. I'll probably always have a job doing something.
You will. I hope. I hope you will. If anyone is listening and you're in the state of Florida, he gave his email address. Contact this man because he would be a great leader in anything in the fraternity. He might tell you no if he's smart, but I think he'd be great at it. So please contact him. But, would you consider yourself a perfect man or some kind of example in your personal life for someone to hold up? Like, I don't for myself.
Nope.
I'm well aware of my issues. And
I've got several. No, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't emulate me. No.
Right. Like, we're not perfect people here. But the thing is like, we're trying. And this is what Masonry, and it sounds like what DeMolay is about, which is you got to be trying. If you're not trying,
do your best.
Yeah, just do your best and get outside your comfort zone. Do things that are hard for you to do, that you don't want to do sometimes. And we've both done a lot of that. Service.
Right.
That's what servant leadership is, really. It's like, if I could have done everything I wanted to do, I would have had a much easier year. I just said, no, this is how it's going to go. Shut up, sit down, enjoy the ride. But it wasn't like, it was much more.
You can't run a lodge like that. We've seen that in the district, how you cannot run a lodge like that because this is a volunteer organization. It just does not work that way.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
some people had to learn that the hard way,
There are people that I saw not make it through their entire year as a master of a lodge because their lodge essentially revolted against that because of the leadership or lack of leadership that they tried to instill. And that's again, that goes back to the culture of the lodge, because how does somebody get to be master and not know that that's not going to work? And the only way is if you're in a culture that keeps that kind of thinking going. It doesn't happen just one person. Like, that's probably been a problem for generations of officers in that lodge for that person to get to that place. But you can always right that ship. You can always turn it around. All it takes is some guys that want to move in a positive direction, and they can do it. Like you said in DeMolay. DeMolay is whatever the kids want it to be. And honestly, a lodge is like that. A lodge is whatever the people running it want it to be, and the brothers that show up want it to be. It can be anything. And you can change it anytime. All you got to do is stand up and use your voice. And
be the change you want to see.
That's right. And
be the change that you want to see. If you want to see something, do it, Yeah. If you want to see Masons meeting outside of lodge and having a couple of cigars and some beverages with each other, well, do it. Plan it. Have at it. If you want to, grab a bunch of kids and go bowling on a Saturday, well, figure out how you're going to pay for it and go do it. It's pretty simple when you think about it. It
really is. Yeah, you just have to make the decision to do it, like you said. So tell me a little. I mean, we got probably like 4 minutes left here. I'm already 30.
Oh, do we? Have we been going for a minute?
An hour and 30 almost, and I only asked for an hour of Tim's time, so I'm like way past now what he gave us.
Oh, you're good. I still got 20 minutes until I got to leave for lodge.
Yeah.
And all I got to do is throw a tie on, so I'm
He's
good.
Got to go to lodge for an entered apprentice degree tonight, I believe.
I'm sitting on the sidelines, I think.
Yeah, that's funny that you think that.
I am. I think I'm either sitting on the sidelines or I might be a conductor, but I think there's only 2 candidates. I don't know. So there's a chance. There's a chance I could be conducting, but I think I'm on the sidelines.
Text me and let me know what chair they put you in when you get there. I'm really curious now.
No. They've had several practices. They did a good job on this one. I think it's going to be a candlelight degree. They got dispensation so they can, do all that. So they better have all the chairs filled. I would think that would be, step 1.
So you're 29. You're past master of a lodge. You're now in a leadership role in DeMolay. What do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? Like, how do you because it's a lot of pressure. Freemasonry can be a second job when you take it as seriously as you do. So, like, how do you
Right.
decompress? What do you do for fun?
Believe it or not, it's a I got so much stuff going on that sometimes DeMolay is what I need because it makes me focus on something else and get my mind off of what I got going on with all the other crap, you know. So it's like I said last year was a rough year for me personally. Lodge was the only thing right that I had going. So it was a nice escape for me. Masonry, even though it is a job, it's a nice escape for me. But I play pool every Wednesday. I have a pool table in my house. I actually play every day, just about. I play on a league every Wednesday. Occasionally, I get together with some friends and run Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing. Actually, the picture right there was from a campaign I was in. I was a character in at a brother, Aaron Rowan. He's the he's the junior steward of Venice Lodge.
Okay.
He ran a Sunday game, and I think I was in that campaign for 2 years.
Wow.
And yeah, so he had those made for all of the players in them.
That's so cool. I'm just so
Yeah,
happy to
no,
hear
it
it, like,
was.
because I'm old and I wasn't even the original generation that played Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I was playing
No,
second and third edition rules by the time I was playing. Like, that started
right.
in the 70s, I think, when I was born. And
Mhm.
it just makes me so happy to see that it's still going on, that people still get together. And Dungeons and Dragons is no joke, okay? You got to learn a lot to be effective at Dungeons and Dragons. There's a lot of rules.
Well,
I mean, sure, you can show up and
yeah,
role play, haha, but if you want to be a good player, you need to know what a constitution check is. You need to know,
right,
there's a lot of
sure.
things you got to
But
know.
it's fun too. I mean, it depends on your table. There's different dynamics for every table. It is, if you want to go and play competitive D&D, yes, you need to know all that.
Yeah.
But if you just want to have a good time on a Friday night with a bunch of your friends and goof around and maybe kill a couple of goblins or kill a dragon or something or save a damsel
Yeah.
or, I've actually had nights where you didn't kill anything, where they played different types of poker
Nice.
using dice, and it was all role play kind of session and
Nice.
stuff. I mean, it's whatever you want it to be. So you don't necessarily have to know all the rules. It's my job as a DM to know the core rules and know how things are supposed to work and help the characters that maybe because I get a lot of new people that never played
Yeah.
before. Help them. I need you to make a Constitution saving
Yeah.
throw. Where's that?
What is that?
Okay, go
Yeah.
to Constitution, go to saving throws, go to Constitution. It's +5, whatever. Roll a d20 and add the 5 to it. It's stuff like that. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to know all the core rules. It's nice if you eventually pick up
Yeah.
on them, but no, I don't think it's a requirement.
So
to know.
when he said he's a DM, that means dungeon master. That means he's the guy running the
Yes.
show. He basically has to role play for all of the non-player characters that you're going to encounter, whether they're good guys or bad guys. You're playing them, and you're ultimately
Yes.
deciding what happens to every character, good or bad. You make the final decision on that. So it's a big job to take on being a dungeon master. And
I like to do it a little differently. So the way I see it is the players are building the story. I'm just facilitating. I'm setting the setting. I'm putting the setting in, but they're deciding what they're doing. And I run kind of a sandbox. I don't run a railroad. Yeah. You guys are going down this road now, and do you go left or right? No. What are you guys doing? This is what you guys see. What are you doing? It's more along those lines.
I think that makes for a much more enjoyable experience for everybody because they feel like they're creating something together. But it's a much
different strokes for different folks, though. Not everybody likes that.
It's much harder for a dungeon master to run a game that way because it's much easier to just say, I have every encounter planned out and this is what we're going to do for 4 hours and do it. It's much harder to not know what you're getting into. You have a rough idea, probably. You got to plan.
Right. So it's actually easier for me for that reason. Yeah. Right. So I tried running the modules, and my problem was not remembering who this guy's name was. That's important because on this other page, in the next chapter, you got to know who that guy's name is because they got to find him and all that. Yeah. Knowing all that and trying to remember all that it's a wash because your characters are going to pick option C either way, any way you do. So I'd rather it just be more of an improv based than. So I try not to over plan. I have ideas of what my guys are going to run into, and I'll have things that maybe I can move around. That you're still going to run into this thing even if you go that way. But whatever. Right. that's more along the lines of what I do. I don't do the, plan a whole dungeon thing where it's nothing but a dungeon crawl and you got to know where every trap is and every monster. I have done it. I hate it. So
it's a lot of work.
I'm more of an open world kind of guy myself.
That's fun.
But
and I noticed that now they give bonuses for role playing. Like it wasn't like that when I played. You were expected to role play.
Depending on your master, yeah. Depending on the dungeon master, it's so you can do. It's inspiration is what it's typically called. You can do a lot of different things to incentivize it. Like what I've done, instead of just giving somebody inspiration, saying instead of saying I want to hit that guy with my axe, I'm going to do a backflip over this guy. Do that. If you're explaining to me how you're getting there, how you are, doing that, then I'll give you an extra. It might be a harder roll. You might have an acrobatics check on top of it, but if you land it, well, then you get extra X amount of damage on top of it, depending on how cool the thing is that you did. So there's different ways you can incentivize role play to your players as the DM.
I think the best way is to do it yourself, right? Like when you play a character, you play him with an accent. You play him like you do something, and that pulls the.
The old master of disguise, become another person mantra.
Yeah. And for me, I always I'm drawing from movie characters that I like, right? Like I might have a Scottish accent, and I'm doing like some kind of what was his name? He played James Bond. I always imagine that guy as like Sean Connery. I would do Sean Connery. They had no idea that that's what I was playing.
Right.
But you pull from your life and things, and you kind of method acting, I guess,
fun,
is what they call it.
Right. But no, other than that, so pool, D&D, and I like to hang out with some friends of mine and have a beverage or two on occasion, that kind of thing. I'm pretty simple nowadays. I don't have a whole lot of time for a lot of things. So
I'm sure between work and family and masonry, you don't have a lot of time for hobbies.
Like I said, I got a couple that I do, and I hyper fixate on them. But I have ADHD, so I also do martial arts and stuff, and I got a million other things. But it's like, what am I focusing on this week?
I didn't know that. What style?
Yep. Well, I'm in a couple. I'm in Roku Kempo through master out of Jacksonville that I started with when I was a little kid, and I still talk to. And then Worshipful Hampton Krimi teaches Sangoku Bujitsu Rinmei, and I was in his class for a while, and I still practice some of his kata and stuff, even though we're not meeting on any regular basis anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, a couple of different ones, all Okinawan K for the most part.
So you're trained in stand-up and grappling, both? Yes,
and I've done a little bit of small circle jujitsu, which goes hand in hand with that, and then I've done a very small amount of modern arnis or kali. It's a different form of kali, Filipino stick fighting kind of thing. I suck at it. I tell people my IQ drops 30 points every time I grab one of those sticks when I'm at a seminar. It's like but I feel like I could do better than just a random person that maybe never picked up a stick before, though.
I mean, that's kind of the key to martial arts. That's what I would tell people. They think, oh, you're deadly weapons hands. It's like, no, I could definitely beat somebody that's never trained before. That's the advantage of training. You're better. You're hopefully going to be better than that. But you put me in a competition with other guys that have been training, and it's going to look pretty pathetic.
Yeah, no, I'm out on that. I don't do tournament. I'm out.
Now, I've also seen a lot of pictures of you in a leather vest with a widow's son cat.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you ride motorcycles.
I am a motorcycle enthusiast. I do have an Indian chieftain in the garage that I do get to take out from time to time and go ride. I haven't been doing that as much recently, so it wasn't at the forefront. But I used to see. That's how I used to see pictures of you online. You're always doing widow's son stuff. Before I knew. Right. You. Yeah, that was before I was master. I had a lot more time to do all that. I do love it. I get to go to. I forgot about a meeting yesterday. I still feel bad about that. I missed it, but I'm starting to get back involved with that too now that I'm out of the East and get a little bit more time as far as that goes. But
that's a whole nother group we got to talk about one day. The Widow's Sons, fascinating.
Widow's Sons is a fun fun group. I like that. I like the Widow Sons a lot. A lot of great brothers in them. Motor Corps also a lot of great brothers there. A lot of the same brothers. A lot of similarities between the groups. One's a standalone that's technically not a dependent body at all, and not a Masonic body at all. It's just a body with Masons in it. Then Motor Corps is a shrine unit.
No,
so
I appreciate you giving me your time and coming on the show again to talk about DeMolay, which I know is something that's important to you and has been for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully people learn something about it from the show, and hopefully if they know somebody that has kids between the ages of 12 and 21, they send them to beademolay.org where they can learn about DeMolay. I'm sure on that website they can even inquire about joining a chapter near them, and hopefully get involved. You've done a lot for a 29-year-old in Masonry, especially. Been the master of a lodge. You've been in several appendant bodies, and now you're in a leadership role in one of them.
I think the term you're looking for is I'm a sucker. Yeah, no, I get. That
wasn't the word I was going to use. I was going to use leader. You're a leader, and
I appreciate that.
You have a platform here where you can speak to Masons all over the world. We gave your email address, so I'm gonna encourage people to reach out to you with questions they might have, whether it's about being a master of a lodge or an officer or being involved in DeMolay or any of that stuff. You have a lot of experience in this area, so I hope they reach out.
There's certain things that I'm better at than others, man. I had a good year. I did my best, but I'm not. If you're looking about the guys that know all about all the reports that you got to do and that aspect of being a master, I would direct your attention to somebody else because I had a mentor that was helping me the entire time get through that. But as far as managing people, I'm halfway decent at doing that a lot of the time, and managing events, that kind of thing, I'm decent at. And DeMolay, I'm happy to answer any questions I can with DeMolay too. Yeah.
We have to go, but I want to give you the opportunity to speak last. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners that are probably Masons? Wisdom for them that we can leave them with on the way out?
Once again, support Masonic youth. They are our future. Without them, what do we have? We are not in this situation where we have enough members to where we don't need to build the future, and we never will be. So find a local DeMolay chapter and do what you can, whether it's financial support, whether it's just showing up and being an extra hand, whether that's helping with, if you have a young man in your life and get them involved, and not just DeMolay, but also Job's Daughters and the Rainbow Girls. Look into those as well. I don't know as much about those two, so I won't talk too much on them, but they are also great organizations that need help as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for the year.
Thanks for having
me. That we had together, everything that you did for me, and I hope you come back.
Yeah, brother. I appreciate you, man. Anytime, give me a call.
Tim Ferdon. This is it for On the Level Podcast. Join us next time.